Everyone, welcome to another exciting episode of Padel Smash Academy. Today we're so excited to have Luis Fer Ramirez, the head national coach of the national team that is going to play the World Cup Championship in Qatar.
Thank you for having me, and exciting to be in the Smash Academy, Padel Smash Academy.
Finally,
Right.
finally.
Trendy.
No, we were back and forth for a while, right?
We will.
But
We
finally
were
got
since
you
we
here.
did the course together, Padel MBA,
That's right. That's where I met you at the beginning,
Exactly.
at Padel MBA, right?
learning paddle.
Yeah,
always.
yeah. And how did you like that anyways? How was that?
I think it was a great experience. An experience that we don't have much in the States yet, but I think it's coming. There are a few outlets right now out there. And it's always good to learn more paddle, people that were enthusiastic about paddle in every level, because they were not just coaches, they were players, they were
Right.
people that were just wanted to learn a little more about paddle. So it was a great experience to network, to learn. And for example, we got to be, friends during that weekend and talked a lot about paddle.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, there's a lot of people that were into tennis or that were into other racket sports, and you could see that, but you could see them exciting, to play paddle now, or
100%.
becoming a coach in a different club. I mean, I met a lot of people there,
100%.
which was a great experience. And I thought the class was really good. The online class was great. And
It is a great tool. For
Yeah.
us coaches, it is a great tool to
100%.
prepare classes, etc. Yeah.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about you. Where are you originally from?
I'm from Venezuela. I came to the United States when I was 18. So right now I'm a dual citizen. I'm a U.S. citizen and a Venezuelan. Came because of tennis on a tennis scholarship to play in New Mexico State University. That's a Division I, super amazing experience. What they do here with the NCAA, it's beautiful, and they actually bring the best talent and level to compete, and it makes you grow a lot. Then from there, I played 3 years of professional tennis. That led me to having a green card here as a resident with a special talent.
A special talent.
That's how they call it.
Wow. I mean, that's not easy. Wow. that's
No,
great.
it is. It was actually an amazing reward and an accomplishment for me,
Yeah.
because Venezuela wasn't going through the best times at the moment, still isn't, but at that moment especially, and it was for me an escape and a solid escape, because it wasn't easy to find alternatives. I was
Right.
only a Venezuelan, so I started a master's there in the University of Miami, here in Miami, and that's why I moved here in sport administration. Then continued on with life, opened up a tennis academy, worked in wealth management. After that, now I'm doing real estate, and paddle came in my life in 2018 and has been following me hard and trying to get me in more and more and more and more. And today I'm the national coach of like Julian said, of the men's national team, and super excited because we have the world championships coming up, and I think we have a good team to make
So
things.
tell us a little bit, how was in 2018? How was that transition from tennis? How did you get involved in
Okay,
paddle?
so
or more importantly, how far did you get into tennis? And then at what point did you say, you know what, okay, I'm gonna start living my life, or I'm gonna transition to paddle? How did that whole thing happen?
So back in 2018, I'm sitting with a tennis academy that was operating in Brickell. It was super successful and got me to meet so many different people from different nationalities. It was prior to COVID, right before COVID. So that's when one of my students took me to a paddle court for the first time ever in my life. 2018, going to Real Padel with, the OG club. And
The cradle paddle.
Yeah.
That's where you have to begin,
Yeah. So were you still competing in tennis at that time?
Just coaching at the moment.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
but I started right away competing in paddle since day 2, I guess. I went to play there for fun. I lost that match to people that used to play tennis, and I used to be easily, and then got me real quick. And I'm like, okay, I got you. I went right away. I went to the USPA, website, and got into the first tournament available, and that's how I started.
So how was your transition from tennis to paddle? Because at the beginning, whether you're playing squash, racquetball, or tennis, you're playing that sport inside. So how long was that transition, or when you learned, hey, look, okay, this is paddle, not tennis?
The transition still happens because
still happening,
because
okay.
when you are a tennis player like me,
Yeah.
that since I was 3 years old, I was playing tennis. Your instinct and you're
course.
born to not let anything go.
Yes.
Anything has to be. You need to touch it, put it back in the court, and competing. I got to play in every level of tennis. In ITF, I was top 200 in the world, and in Division I in NCAA. Then I was up to 585 in the world in ATP. So I got to live, and I played Davis Cup in Venezuela. So I got to live like every aspect of tennis. So the transition to paddle, I think gonna continue for the next 10 years, because tennis was, you know, so structured, and the way you have to prepare to be a player, that we're still learning, you know, in paddle, and people are still adapting and learning. And for me personally, to play paddle in a better level, it takes time, because adapting to the walls, adapting to the lobs, adapting the instinct of being a killer the entire time, to now you have to control the pace, control the points.
But you've been playing now for how many years now?
Or, well, yeah, since 2018. So I've been playing for a while now.
Yeah.
And obviously right now, you know, you think you master the game and you understand it more, but you have to watch a lot of paddle and get in the court a lot, and listen to a lot of people, like, for example, Julian, and directors here and there in every club that tend to give, you know, that advice that comes from paddle, but you mix in what you have from tennis, which is the big volleys, the big...
One of the things that coming from tennis happens, it's learning the tactical aspect of paddle, which is the most difficult part. You know, everybody can return from the walls and all that, but returning with a purpose, and because I always tell my students, you're playing against a net, against two players, and against the walls.
It is.
Imagine that. You got to keep it away from the walls, away from the two players, and above the net.
Yeah.
And that's very, very complicated.
I find it super tactical. You know, paddle, and that's what gets me the most about paddle, because you have to really think what you're doing and what's going on. And how do you approach a match? You have to have at least 6-7 strategies, you know? So you can actually adapt to what they are doing, to what you're doing, to what's working, to what's not working. In tennis, it's little more like 2-3 plans that you have: plan A, plan B, plan C, and then if not, you're screwed. You lost, you know, because you have no time to adapt.
I think from that aspect, tennis is easier.
Yeah, 100%.
You know what I mean?
The thing is that you have to be extremely more precise in tennis, because the margin of error is less, and it's
in
super,
paddle, I think that's in reverse.
No, 100%. But you have to go for winners, and you have to take more risk faster in tennis.
Yes.
So you have to be well prepared with your feet on the ground, established to be able to hit a winner. And the guys that are playing right now professionally are prepared like animals, you know.
Yeah.
So
I think the tennis is more stamina, more
100%,
power.
Yeah.
I mean, in paddle, you're using legs a lot more. You know, you're getting really low. You're using muscles that you've never used in tennis.
100%.
Yeah.
And so it's a little, it is different. It's more
it's
strategic.
important that we're talking this. I think it's what talks about a point in tennis lasts in average 5 to 4 seconds in the tour. In Premier, it's 15 to 20 seconds.
I mean, no, if you can that amount of, I mean, you can have a rally that even on intermediate level, like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times over the net, where in tennis maximum it's 3, 4.
Yeah. In intermediate, even more.
Yeah,
because it's more strategic.
It's
Yeah.
much
Way
more.
more
It has more power and much more thinking.
If you know all the shots, you're trying to figure out your opponent's weakness. You know how to get leverage, and meanwhile the game is going on for 20, 30, 40 seconds, you know, and that doesn't seem like a lot, but when you're moving around, getting really low, defending and trying to, it puts a lot on you, you know.
One of the things that is very important to understand the concept is that in tennis, power is your friend, right? Plays with you. You can overpower someone.
Correct.
In paddle, it's completely the opposite. You cannot overpower someone because the ball just comes back.
Yeah.
So it's such a much more precise and tactically more, you know, refined.
Yes.
Because power does it. So the moment you take power away, is now using your brain where to find the hole, where to find the gap for them to make a mistake. And even though if they can return it from the back wall, so it's even more difficult, you know, at a higher level.
So I think it's more patience.
Yeah.
And depending on the side that you have,
like I said, it's tactical.
That right side is more technical, and that left side is just waiting for por tres or por cuatro. He's waiting to put it out. And if that person's like, you know, comes from tennis or is tall or very powerful, you've seen it. You know, I just came from Mexico. I seen it with Vinny, right? You know, he could put any opportunity he has, he's putting the ball out.
Yeah.
You know, so if you have the capability, but you have to have the patience and know when to do it.
And train.
You know, so that way that risk of it not going, you know, coming back and getting counter smash or hitting that back wall net is reduced. Your exposure is reduced to that risk.
Yeah.
And that's where some of the young guys kind of like they want to hit everything over, you know, and some of them are capable of doing that.
You usually tend to trust your power and your you know what you think you can put in the table, but as soon as the level keeps matching up, and it happened to us, the tennis players, we started coming in to a USPA circuit with just a few players, and we would do semifinals, finals every single time. Now there is more paddle players involved, and it's harder, you know.
Yeah.
Like I always say, you have to read the book if you want to go out there and beat Luisito, Nico, or you know the Miguels. Now you have to know what you're doing. You cannot just go out there and beat the hell out of the ball and get away with it. You know.
Well, you learn very quickly that to come from another sport, and you're doing well. I mean, you have that anticipation, the balance and timing. You have all that and eye-hand coordination. But then once you start playing somebody, that knows how to play paddle, you're like, oh, you know, I got to go back to the instruction manual, as you said.
Luis Fer, so tell us, how did you get involved with the USPA?
Well, the USPA got to me when I played my first national match with Venezuela. I actually got to play with the national team of Venezuela as a player, the first ever national team that got formed. We did a friendly game in Texas against the USA. And that's where I met the people that were involved at the moment. They told me there was a need, you know, for volunteers to join committees. And I right away jumped in one of them in the competition committee. That was in 2022. Alongside with Scott Colliburn, who has been a big help over there. Nick was at the moment. Marcos was just leaving. Martin Sweeney was getting into the presidency at that moment. And we were just a few people, you know, at that moment when I got into the USPA. But I think I brought a lot of experience of what I have left in tennis and try to give that experience towards the USPA, you know, as a volunteer and trying to structure, especially at that moment, my task was to structure a better and more solid competition tour, you know, that right now you have at least tournaments spread around the entire US and everyone has possibilities of competing and playing and getting some points towards the ranking, which was extremely important. And making some sense of what was going to be required for the national teams to be able to jump in and be a part of that national team, you know. So that was when I started. I've been evolving since then. Right now, apart from being the head coach of the national team, of the men's national team, in the absolute level, I also volunteer in the governance and finance committee, help them a lot with you know, everything that the USPA requires right now, especially that we're hopefully heading into the Olympics in 2032 as a sport. From the USPA, we need to be ready and prepared, you know, to confront that.
But you play for Venezuela national team.
Yes,
Is that just a friendly, and that's why you could play for the USA, or did you have to wait?
Yeah, that
years?
was a friendly. Okay. At the moment, Venezuela didn't even have a federation, so they were forming the federation at that moment. So I got to be involved in the first few, you know, friendly games that they put together. Everything was here in the US at the moment. And now they have done an amazing job back home in Venezuela. And I have to congratulate the federation and the players over there because I'm super proud of what they're doing. Recently, I don't know if you were there in the Panamericanos.
Yeah.
The Venezuelan under-18 team won actually the Open tournament, which was a huge accomplishment and a reward for what they're doing, and I'm super proud of them.
Yeah, that was pretty amazing seeing the young kids there, how they play. It's like, wow, it's like some of the kids that got a future. It's like, wow.
What happens is that right now they see a future on it. You know, now there is a hope and a dream, and so now kids from when they're 14, they're professionals. You know, and my goal, my mission here with the national team is to get these kids to be professional since they're young, because in order to be able to compete when you're out there against teams like Mexico, Uruguay, Chile, Brazil, Argentina that are preparing since they're 13, you're going to have to put that work in.
Okay, so that's a good point, and I'm going to ask you a tough question is, how do you do that? You know, how do you do that when there's other sports there that there's scholarships and there's money for, and you can make real money for, you know, you end up losing a lot of athletes to those other sports. And how do you get these juniors to kind of like start playing and start getting really, you know, passionate about it and say, I want to play this sport when there's, I mean, we're hoping there's a future financially for it. But right now, most people, paddle players here in the USA in the top 5, 10, they can't do paddle 100% and make, you know, a living off of it. They're rather doing a side thing or coaching or whatever. So what motivates them to do that? That's number one. Number two, you have the juniors, and it's not made for everybody. I mean, it's very costly. Like, how can you have, you know, these juniors train, you know, 2 or 3 times a week if the courts cost so much money?
So there,
I mean, there's all these like hurdles and I've been trying to figure out how do you do that, you know?
So number one, you talked on how do you do it. Well, those 2 points combined, you know, obviously price is a big step in the way that we have right now. It's a high-end entertainment sport, you know.
It's made only for affluent families.
And it's not touched on the mainstream yet because the infrastructure just started building 2019, you know, 2020. So it takes time. The biggest city that took onto paddle was Miami because we have the Hispanic background and we have, you know, the capability to promote the sport easier. But Miami is an expensive place to be the evangelist, let's say. So in order for us as a paddle world to get juniors and to get people involved, obviously we're going to have to create these spaces where juniors can participate. Right now, they don't have spaces. Right. So I'm a big advocate for that. Right now, obviously, club owners have a big task to do, which is how do I return my investment in while generating spaces for kids also to participate and play. Well, people that are involved like you are, you know, you fell in love with the sport first, and now you have your kids, you know, going to the Panamericanos and involving them, getting them involved in the national teams. That's amazing, and that's what I need to see more. You know, I need to see more parents that get their kids and make the effort to bring them in. And
I think they do. It's cheaper to, you know, put your own court in your backyard
and that's
and have them play and that's gonna to try
and,
to
and that's a step in way, a step in the way that's obviously there, you know.
Right.
But the infrastructure, it's gonna be the best way to solve.
Yeah, but we have to understand one thing. I mean, it's the natural evolution of any new sport. Is the chicken and the egg. Correct. You know what I mean? You can have junior development without paddle courts.
That's exactly.
So the more paddle courts that we have, it's going to be much more accessible to juniors and everyone else. Right now, it's the natural trend. It's where United States is 10 years behind in the paddle evolution compared to the rest, and we're the early adopters. Yeah. You know what I mean? And then after that, when we get the high end and middle income people, now they're bringing your kids, and now you know that's how
and how do you
compete?
Down to the bottom. Which is another great point that you brought up. How do you compete with other sports? It's hard. You can't compete with every single sport, but you're not expecting to bring in 100 million kids. You know,
no.
Right now we have 5. If we can, 5 or 10 per club. I'm saying,
right.
If you can bring it up to 100 per club, then you're doing, you know, a big job.
I love this sport. I'm very passionate about it. You know, and that's why I do this. But I see it, and I used to like I play squash, tennis, of course, since I was little, even racquetball. And racquetball is a dying sport, you know, and
it was never a growing sport.
Well, it got pretty strong in the 80s. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean,
but to build the infrastructure was tough, etc.
And it's indoors. You can only see one way.
So right now it's a business. It has to be a business, right? These investors are coming in. They have to have their money, you know, back, a return on their investment. So how do you make it, I guess, available for, you know, all kids? And, you know, maybe I've seen certain clubs do it at certain times where it's like the dead, you know, like the dead times and giving a discounted price, which I think is great. But somebody has to run that, right?
Exactly. That's a problem.
That's and then right now, the way it is structured is like you go to New England, it's twice as much as it is here in Miami.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And you go there, it's even more.
There has to be there has to be some incentive. The USPA, who is the governing body, who's not in charge of running, you know, how clubs operate or how do they produce talent. No, they're just the governing body who puts the rules, basically, you know, and it's making sure things are happening. It's trying to promote from a committee that was formed just for juniors right now, and it's going to incentivize some clubs by providing some grants, especially to incentivize the junior production in the clubs.
Yeah. So when you say grants, is that federal grants or corporate?
Let me not lose this point because I think it's super important. It's how do you approach the opening of a club or the investment of a club? Right now, people are looking location. Yeah. It's a thing that I hear in every single place, trying to find the most elite and best places, you know. The moment we start shifting away from that a little bit and start touching on cities and trying to get that, you know, underdeveloped land that you can step onto, you know, like the type of Bolletieris and Bradenton's, and get involved with what already is in tennis, pickleball, racket sports, soccer, etc., and just get involved and having the kids to actually see what's going on with paddle. Yeah. We felt it already. When we step on a paddle court, we don't want to leave the paddle court, you know?
I think the first step is location, you say, but there's a reason why.
Yeah.
because the investors, that's what they want. It's part of the model, and so
Yeah, but
It's our mission to teach the cities that we can
Yeah.
create a community out of paddle too.
But here's where it's going to be the big differentiator. It's when you get, for the last 100 years, all country clubs in the United States, they were always golf and tennis.
Yes.
So anywhere in the country.
Yes.
You know what I mean? You go to the typical country club, you become a member and all that. Now the tennis clubs on those country clubs, they're adding pickleball and
That's
paddle.
correct.
So now they're becoming racket clubs.
That's correct.
Yeah.
That's going to be the big
That's the shift,
differentiator,
yeah.
where that's which is already happening.
It's happening.
Yeah, that's already done. They're just adding paddle to it.
Exactly.
If I go to all the racket
No,
club New
yeah.
England, they have what do you call
Pickleball.
pickle there.
Yeah.
They're renting out to health.
Yeah.
And they're like, because honestly, the tennis club theme is kind of a dying.
Yeah, it
or
is.
the club version.
It's
club part
increasing
is.
now in offerings, and it's happening to the malls too. Now the
Yeah.
malls have to be transforming into just offering retail to
Right.
No,
entertainment.
and look, I mean, all tennis clubs, private clubs, and member-owned club, they know that tennis is dying. And let me give you just a quick number. And I was looking at it the other day. It's around the world, there are 500,000 tennis clubs. I mean, tennis courts. That's the maximum of courts that you have around the world. 280,000, they're only in the United States, right?
That's
so
why
more than
pickleball
half,
exists.
more than half of the tennis courts around the world, they're in the United States. The USPA has on hand $360 million every single year. We should have at least the top 10 in the world. They should be Americans.
Yeah.
They're doing something wrong. And now it's when these other racket sports see that gap that we're going to start coming in. Because if you're a club owner and now you added pickleball and paddle, now you monetize it. Now you can increase that revenue coming to the club. Now you're offering 3 different racket sports. And that's going to be the exciting, that's what's going to happen in the near future.
What I think happened with tennis, what you're saying is beautiful, because what you're saying is exactly why pickleball exists.
Yeah.
Pickleball exists because they got into an old infrastructure of tennis that was underutilized, like I was saying before with the cities, and they jumped in there and offer something that people were not finding in tennis, because tennis has become extremely difficult. And when you see the guys playing there every single time, it's better and better and better. You find it like impossible to get there. And then when the news come out and you see, oh, only 100 players are making money, but they're that good, you know? So I think I'm not going to play tennis, you know? So that's something that tennis has to deal with. And they're trying to create these different scenarios and people jumping in. But, you know, it is exactly like that, you know? So now paddle has that opportunity to jump in, and you're seeing it in cities like you're saying in Raleigh, North Carolina, in Atlanta. They're doing public facilities, only rackets, and paddle is in there, you know? So they're seeing it too.
Yeah. The good thing, I mean, it's the future is, we're still early on, but the train has already started.
Yeah.
You know, we're jumping on the train, and we know where it's going to go up, and it's a very, very exciting. So now going back to, let's get into the juicy stuff, man. I mean, come on.
Scared. No.
Oh boy.
So now you're going to Qatar. Give us the dates of the Qatar World
who's
Cup
going?
Championship.
First of all, to Qatar, we had to play a qualifying, and
I know.
the qualifying was in Monterrey. That was a couple weeks ago. We were still super excited, you know, about the performance and what I got to see over there from the players, both in the men's and women's side. The women's did an amazing performance. They had one less spot than to qualify, or available to qualify to the World Championship, and they had to beat Mexico, and they did it in Mexico, which was huge. And talks about us in general, you know, the U.S. paddle as a whole, because what Mexico, for example, does to their national team, it's amazing. They have them supported all the way through, and they play tournaments every single weekend, and they train every day, and they have various coaches and various trainers and conditioning. So it's a big push, you know, that they do, and going out there to compete with players that are self-funding even the tickets, you know, to go and compete against them and beat them. It talks about the talent that we're capable to create, you know, if we actually do it right, you know, and set the right structure. Going again to Qatar, I think we have a great opportunity to showcase, you know, probably something that we have never done over there in the World Championships game. My goal and the goal that I have set up to my team is to be a top 10 country. It's a super tough task, but I think right now we brought in 2 additions to the team that are going to make us super strong. And I'm confident on the work that we are putting in and that the players especially are doing. and it's gonna be a super fun
All
experience.
right, buddy, you have to tell us the
Come
players,
on.
man. Come on.
Give us the
Give it
juicy,
to
give
us,
it the
bro.
juicy
Give
stuff.
it to us.
Who are the
Who are the
players?
guys and who-
So
yeah.
the guys that are gonna come are Vini Di Francesco, that you were with him right now.
Yeah, great player.
Great player, and I have super high hopes on,
Oh, yeah.
on the future that
He's a monster.
that he can bring.
He's only 18, right?
He's only
Yeah,
18,
so, yeah.
and right now, and I'll jump on the player soon, but right now the FIP Rise ranking came up, well, end of last year, and we had 2 players in the top 10, you know,
Wow.
Argentinians, Spanish guys, and 2 USA players, which are Matias Segura, and who is the second player that's going to the team, and Vini Di Francesco. And that tells you the talent and the capabilities that those 2 guys have, and the you know, the benefit that we have of having them with
Yeah.
us, you know.
Yeah.
So we need to give them that
Benefit
support.
and privilege.
Yeah.
Privilege. That's
Because
the word.
they
that
didn't grow
come
up in
out.
the United States and they
That's
trained
correct.
somewhere else.
And they decided,
Yeah.
and they decided to come and play for us. And let me tell you that people think they don't. They had the opportunity to go and play for Argentina, you know.
Yeah.
But they, like we are seeing, the eyes of paddle are with us right now,
Yeah.
and
The
they want to
US
be there.
is a market.
Yeah.
It
It's
is,
a market
you know,
for
and-
anything, and including paddle. You know,
Exactly,
I think that's
and
what
they
see,
and they
you know?
trusted us, and we have to trust them. So it's them too. Then we have Mr. America, Captain America, Nico Agritelli.
Wow.
Nico
Come on,
Agritelli, who
Nico.
is my captain and an amazing guy. You know, he's a true professional paddle
Yeah.
player, made in America, came from tennis, adapted beautiful to paddle, and right now he's training like an athlete. You know, and that's something that you can see on the court on every single tournament. He's in the finals, competing at a high level, and super high expectations on him too. Then we have JP Arispe. JP comes with a lot of experience. He has been there a lot. He's our only lefty in my team. So it's important to have him. Then we have also Fernando Alarcón with a lot of experience, being number 1 in the USA forever
Years,
until
yeah.
these kids came in and took his spot. But now he's trying to fight back for it. I always laugh with him about it. He tells me he's gonna come back. I'll see, you know. But he's coming
tougher
and
and tougher every year, you know.
It
New
is,
kids
it is,
coming,
it
yeah.
is. But he's a great player.
Oh,
and
yeah.
has so much
Amazing.
knowledge of the game, and with the team, you know, he has a lot of. He transmits, you know, that experience to the
coach,
kids.
too.
Yeah.
Really great
Then
coach,
I have another kid that I have a high hopes is Sebastian Castañeda, who is from California. He plays half of the year here in the USA and half in Mexico. So he plays a lot of that Mexico tour, which has him, you know, improving a lot. He's 21 years old. Then we have, let me recap. Vini, Matias, Fernando, JP, Sebas Castañeda, Raulito Ruiz.
Okay.
Wow.
Raulito Ruiz, who has
Nice.
been also growing as a player a lot
Yeah.
and has been super
Incredible.
committed to paddle, you know, in
The
the past.
Bolivian American superstar.
That's
Yeah.
exactly right. You know,
Oh.
big guy. You know, he has
Strong,
I
yeah.
think strong tools, and obviously there is a lot of work to do there. But he's working towards that. You know.
Yeah.
Then we have Will Agritelli, the brother of Nico. He got into paddle also in 2017 and has been improving a lot. You know, he's become a paddle player and a paddle addict. In that family, I think they only talk about paddle right now. It's a big problem I think they're having with the different wives. But well, not Nico, but but Will. But yeah. So Will, and the last one, it's gonna be, who didn't I mention? Let's see. Vini, Matias, JP, Fernando, Sebas, Will, and Raul. Those are the 8. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Nice.
Great team.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So these guys are going to be competing with the la creme de la creme, the top of the top.
That's right.
Spain, Argentinians. I read that Argentina is going with Tapia, Dineno.
How do you prepare? Tell me that.
I know, right?
How do I prepare that match?
Yeah, with Teo, Chingoto. I mean, it's
Man, that's dream team, the dream team over there, you know.
yeah, it's gonna be fun to watch it. You know, I mean, it's at least just showing up. It's gonna be a great experience.
I'm super happy for the experience, not
Yeah.
not just for me, but for the kids. You know, to live
Oh,
that
man,
experience.
yeah,
I
that's
felt like
amazing.
every single time they step on the court over there, they're gonna increase one level,
100%.
and they're gonna live the experience, and they're gonna feel what it takes to be
just
there.
learning.
Yes.
Getting on the court and watching and being like, wow, and learning. You just learn. I just went to
Exactly that.
Mexico myself, and I was watching some of these players, and I'm like, wow, You just learn.
And
The different way that they're playing. You know, they're younger. Their minds are different. Their styles different. Creating
and they move the way they move.
It's like wow.
And you'll get to
amazing.
see them.
They flow. It's like they're flowing through that.
And you'll get to see them how they prepare before a match. How do they warm up? How do they
nutrition,
stretching? What they are drinking? How they carry the bag? You know, so you can. And I'll take the opportunity to first of all congratulate the guys because they earned it. You know, they earned to be in that spot.
Yeah.
They earned it through a tough season, which is the USPA brutal calendar because you have to go all over the states self-funding this. No one is sponsoring them as of now. Only maybe Nico has a sponsor, but the rest they're doing it by itself, and they fight to be on the top of that ranking and to be. There, it's a reward. They also got the way in by beating Canada over there in Mexico. And I want to shout out to Radu and Jose de Armas, who are not coming, but we're part of that team. And we're amazing teammates and guys, you know, committed to the USA and supporting us in every step of the way.
And Jose de Armas, I heard that he jumped on the train. It was already leaving, and he was a last minute call.
That was a tough situation that you have to deal with. You know, as a coach, there is situations that come and arise, and you have to just find a solution. One of my players that was selected in that case was Mateo Coles, who is a guy that's been preparing hard to be a paddle professional player, and I respect a lot too. Had to pull out literally 2 couple hours before we
really?
Yeah. So Jose has been informed beforehand that he was one of the possible candidates to be a replacement, a sub. You even had to send a list of 3 possible subs. Thankfully, I had including him there because as soon as I called him, he bought a ticket and he was there. You know, so that shows the commitment of him to be a part of the national team, and obviously the excitement he had to be there. And he got to play against Mexico in a great match, and that experience will remain forever, you know?
Yeah. So big question, are you going to the US Open?
I am going. I'm not going to go play. I'm going to go watch, but I'll be there with the guys in a couple weeks, you know, weekends.
So we might go too.
We might go too.
So. Play either, no?
Part 2, we'll do it there. A short interview to see what we're seeing.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, 100%.
So Luis, tell us about your paddle vision. Where do you see yourself 5 years from now, 10 years from now?
Not only just promoting this, but financially being able to support yourself with paddle. Do you see that, and what are your goals there when it comes to
Look, right now, as me personally, you know, I see myself mixing what I have done my entire life, which is sports at a high capacity, you know, and the past 4 years I have been involved with real estate. So my idea is to combine those 2 passions and hopefully open a few clubs or join a group of people that are opening up clubs. And
so your goal is to open up a club.
I would dream. Obviously, right now, after 5, 6, 7 years with paddle, you know, you fell in love with it, you know. So that would be the ideal way of doing things. I want to do.
As an operator, or just.
Well, I think when you're doing an entrepreneurship, and especially in a raw market like paddle is, because right now paddle is as raw as it gets, you know. Yeah. So you have to be kind of an operator. Me being a national coach obviously helps, you know, to run things a little smoother, I think. And but I'm not close to anything right now. You know, I'm seeing opportunities. What I think is that you have to do it right. You know, if you're gonna put your name and everything out there. So yeah.
So would that be locally here, or would that be anywhere in the world, or?
No. Obviously, right now I'm super compromised with the USA. You know, gotcha. I have a small investment in a club that we opened with the family in Venezuela.
Okay.
But because my parents are living there, my uncles live there, and we had a piece of land, so we basically used it. And that was a great experience because it's a learning experience on how the process works, how the logistics work, and it's something that I think the US is going to be the big market, and we have, if we do it right, the promoters, because we are all promoters here, you know, right. If we do it right and get to the right amount of people, it's going to be a big market for all of us.
I see paddle moving from Miami up more north, you know, and I'm seeing other coaches or friends of mine or people I play with moving up to those areas as well, you know, and I see that's kind of the trend, and I think it's going to continue happening like that because those people there in the north need coaches, need the person who has experience, you know, and so that's what I've been seeing.
I have gotten calls from different clubs here and there that are opening, and you know, I'm super happy when I see that a club is opening. It's like, you know, this is real. This is going to continue to be real. Someone is putting up the money in Kansas, in Virginia, in Arizona. I read they're opening up a few clubs in California. What they're doing with Tatica here, Ultra, Reserve. You know, we are all adding towards something. You know, and we need to do it right though. We need to interconnect a little better. We need to have a better ecosystem. And imagine if right now we're starting, we already have a little conflict here and there. We're just starting. We should right now be all friends. Because we need to be friends.
Yeah, we do. But it's a tough one here in Miami. It's very competitive.
But here in Miami, you have at least 25 clubs, or now you see how the.
So what do you think about that? I mean, when we first started Padel Smash, I think there was, I don't know,
1, 2,
no, maybe 3 or 4 at the most, right?
Padel Real and Wynwood.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, and then and now it's like it's growing. I mean, I think there's a dozen clubs or even more. What do you think? Do you think it's oversaturated right now? Is there more clubs than players, or is it about the same right now?
I think clubs are getting to see here in Miami firsthand that if you don't offer something different than the rest, they won't come to you. If your the courts are not good, if you don't have coaching, if you don't have the right atmosphere, they're not gonna come to you. Obviously, you got to see where you're located. If you're in Magic City, you're not going to offer the same that if you're in Key Biscayne, or maybe you do, but in a different way, to adapt. But that's what's going to happen, at the end of the day. Right. And in New York, it's going to happen too. As soon as they open 6 or 7, you'll see that it will happen. And in the entire USA, it's happening.
Yeah, I mean, the first club is always difficult. They're paving the way. And
as soon as
investors see, it's working.
What we need to understand is that by interconnecting the clubs, it's by what you're going to get, a bigger community, and a community that stays longer in paddle.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I live it every day. I think what's going to happen in the next couple of years, it's going to be they're going to be a lot of clubs, in 2-3 years going downhill. I mean, they're going to be belly up.
Happens in other countries.
Yeah, it's and the ones that are going to survive are the ones who has the best programming, the best coaches, and the ones that know how to do it. Because I see so many clubs opening right now. Actually, yesterday they were telling me they're opening 3 right here in Wynwood. 3 more.
Yeah.
3 more.
And
in Wynwood.
They've been saying that. But I mean, is that actually happening?
Yeah. So what I'm saying is, you have 5-6 clubs now within walking distance.
And let me tell you something: Wynwood rent is not cheap.
So at the end of the day, when you start, it's when you start doing the numbers, the ones that has the best programming and management are going to be the ones that are.
And I'll tell you something that's extremely important that we attack. Paddle is a sport, a niche sport that came from Argentina and Spain, mostly Hispanic and Latin people. If we don't get into the American culture and teach them how to play paddle in an American way and not in an Argentinian and Spanish way, which is hard to do because you cannot forget what paddle brings but if you don't get to the culture, you will never get there. What they are feeling with pickleball is real, and pickleball has to be our #1 ally right now and understand their case studies, what they did, how they did it, and learn from them because they're putting out their big numbers.
I think the pickle is more approachable. When it comes to paddle, there's a lot of Spanish names, a lot of Spanish people.
That's what I'm saying. You cannot,
intimidating a little bit.
In my opinion, and this is only me, you cannot be always forever teaching bandeja, because there is people that don't feel comfortable, by saying that. Or rulo. Imagine ru. You have to say ru. For an American, it's almost impossible. So we need to find ways to not feel like for the paddle, OGs that we're overstepping into them, because we're not. We're trying actually to increase, the amount of people that are here for the benefit of them and for the benefit of us and for the longevity of the sport, So we need to find a way to mix it up,
It's a tough thing. As I said this before, just like in, international football and American football, international football is European, South American mostly. And the Americans have the American football. So we in Americans right now have the pickle. Then now that Europeans and South Americans kind of have the paddle. How do we get the Americans to adapt to paddle?
So you said it there. You have 2 great products because MLS has shown to be an amazing product.
That's a long time.
It takes time.
Failed. A few organizations failed before.
But how you did it? You bring in the World Cup in '94. Right, and that's when they bring it an international coach. Not before. You had to have people playing a lot the sport, and then you bring an international coach that professionalized everything. Who was I forgot the name.
I think what helped was the internet and also the
And
video games.
obviously,
The kids, I used to, never be able to watch some of the games when I was younger. We had to go to somebody's house at a huge antenna and be able to see some of the games, right? And then afterwards, online, we were able to get access to it. And then no kids ever wore anybody's shirt. Maybe they were
That's what I'm saying,
USA shirt.
Yeah.
I don't know, a national team shirt, because their dad's from Spain or whatever. Now I was watching in the 90s, in 2000s, I would say people would actually names of shirts of players. How do they know that?
But
They
how-
play video games? I saw video games.
How did the infrastructure change from 92 to 2000 in terms of soccer fields availability in the nation? It changed completely. And right now you see soccer everywhere, so it's part of a building process. It cannot be easy. It takes a lot of money, and it takes time and people that actually think that the dream, because at the end we're selling not a dream, but kind of, because you don't have extremely accurate data to support what you're selling, but that people to believe that this is real. If we're going to the Olympics, if it's not in 32, it's going to be in 36. So that's going to happen, and that's an incentive.
Yeah,
to athletes.
but honestly, I mean, the Olympics, it will help.
Yeah.
But look,
It
if you
doesn't
think
change
about
much.
Tennis became an Olympic sport.
doesn't change much,
in the early 80s. I think it was 86. It wasn't really an Olympic sport.
It's a validation.
Yes,
sport,
it's a validation.
It's a validation as a sport that helps.
Exposure.
But that helps find more support from the city within.
Yeah.
Okay, so grants from the national committee to actually help massify the sport a little more. But from here to there, we need to have at least 3,000 clubs open in the United States.
100%. As soon as people, because when I watch Olympics and I can always go and watch some of the unique stuff, like they don't see, and so people do that. If they see paddle there, they're gonna do that. I'm like, what the hell is that?
And we need to leverage.
Where's the
famous
next place?
Look, I've been in houses and private homes of millionaires and billionaires this past year.
Yeah, you come over all the time.
Exactly, but you have a jacuzzi.
You have him well seated, my friend.
and these people, I mean, I've been in one of the, a billionaire home in Palm Beach. I won't say the name, but it's one of the most influential, wealthiest persons in the planet. They invite me there to go and teach a lesson, and I ended up going to that house, which was incredible. I mean, it was tremendous. It was huge. It was a palace in front of the Atlantic Ocean Bay. I mean, it was incredible. He didn't have a tennis court. He didn't have a pickleball court. He had a paddle court.
Beautiful.
Right? And now when you see these people bringing paddle courts into their homes, same thing happened in tennis in the early 70s and 80s. Yeah, but golf, you need a golf course.
Yeah, but it built around the real estate.
Yeah, but in the 70s and 80s, all the millions and billionaires, they put tennis courts in their homes.
Exactly.
Now they're putting paddle courts.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I tell you, this person told me, I fell in love with the sport. I put paddle courts in my homes in Saint-Tropez, in the UK, in the Hamptons, in New York City, in Colorado, and in the West Coast. She put paddle courts all over their homes.
Great.
So when you see that trend, you know where it's going.
Yeah.
I've been in San Francisco, in Napa Valley, in the middle of a vineyard. They took me to this place where I was in heaven. A huge vineyard, which is a paddle court.
Wow.
And you see this, and you know where the sport's going. Now, when the wealthy and the billionaires and millionaires are playing with this sport, it's going to trickle down much faster than going from the way out.
That's what we're hoping.
Yeah,
it's a
because
task
right now
on
it's
us,
just
on the
it's just
operators,
that,
Yeah, but the more courts that we have, the cheaper it's going to be, the easier it's going to be the access. When you have now the country clubs and the and the look. If you see what happens in Spain, why Spain became such a mega force in the paddle world. In the 80s, 90s, they had a huge real estate boom in Spain. The president of Spain was crazy about paddle. He put all the developers, not to put tennis courts in the new developments, but to put paddle courts.
So he got involved with the real estate.
Every community had a paddle court.
Gotcha.
And that's how it became what it is right now.
And you see that the coaches that are around those communities that want to make some cash and they learn how to teach.
Exactly.
Paddle NBA has done a good job in getting more and more coaches, and there are many more outlets. But I totally agree. Infrastructure is what's going to get us to the next level, and the right infrastructure is it's what's going to get us to the actually higher and massifying level.
Yeah.
You need to have good operators and people that have experience in sports and in different sports that can bring in the wrong that was done in those sports and bring and you know, filter it.
Yeah, it's a good balance of business, you know, knowing the sport and being passionate about it. I mean, you have to be well-rounded. I mean, we see tons of clubs, and you know, and we see little errors here. We see, okay, you know, they're really thoughts about this, and we know, okay, we've seen that. It's probably not going to work, you know. But you don't say anything. You're kind, you know. But they learn. They have to learn, you know. And then there'll be other clubs that fail, other clubs that see, wow, they get it. You know, they get it. This is
you're selling an experience. You're selling someone. You're not selling a gym, you know, or a Starbucks. So it's important that clubs understand that you're not selling just numbers and an Excel sheet that you thought it was going to happen. You're selling much more than that. You know, you want to have people that stick to you and stick to the club.
Experience, a lifestyle. You know, creating habits. You know, other forms of verticals. You know, all those things are just really important, especially at the beginning where nobody knows paddle.
Yeah, no, but
how do you get people in the door? You know, budget for marketing. I mean, there's just so many things that need to be done in the business part at the beginning when nobody knows paddle. I mean, you could put one here and you'll be fine because everybody knows paddle. But in areas that it's not too popular, how are they gonna know what it is?
You need to put it next to a tennis, pickle, etc. So people come for pickle, see paddle, stick to paddle. You know, it's it's trial and error.
You need to bottle that whole thing. Is when you walk into a court, that feeling that you get, like, oh man, this is gonna be the best hour and a half of my day.
Now we know
you see that smile?
it.
That needs to be bottled up. And
that
needs to be thrown out to every single person within, let's say, a 20-30 mile radius.
Hopefully.
Every day.
Hopefully.
And then that's how it'll work.
For all those listeners and viewers, just say it with me, say it with us. Paddle is a beautiful sport. Okay.
Yell it.
If we want to help the national team, is the USPA doing something about it?
Well, right now, and that's a great question because right now, players in the national team, in the absolute team, which are, you know, the ones that represent us at the elite level, are self-funding some parts of their travels and their trips and their training. So any support is going to be super appreciated. And if you want to support, there is a link in the USPA website where you can donate. And that's going straight to the national teams in terms of a budget that they use yearly. And that's one of the best ways to do it. And then in a few days, we're going to put up a GoFundMe, especially for this trip of Qatar. That's going to be promoted everywhere. You probably are going to see it somewhere if you like paddle.
We're going to put the link right below it. So please, if you want to help the national team and you want to help paddle in the United States, please link below and you will help them.
We need it. You know, the USPA is based on volunteers, people that are putting this like me, out of pure heart and trying to get something better, you know, of what we have. You know?
USPA is what we have.
It's what we have, and we gotta make it better. We gotta make it better because I think right now we have a lot of good people around the USPA and a lot of people that want to participate. You know, it's obviously easy to complain and to say, "Oh, I can be better." Come and work with us and try to get it better. You know.
All right, Lucifer, thanks for coming on Padel Smash Academy. We want to wish you all the luck.
Thank you very much.
And catch us in the next review.
We are all things paddle.